live and recorded for future broadcasts. We have one counselor joining us remote, and the rest are in person. Please join me to salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The council has been made aware of the passing of one of Bridgewater's military veterans. Lee Benson passed away peacefully at home on November 5th, 2023. Lee was a proud Army veteran. His commitment to serving his country exemplified his dedication and honor, qualities he carried with him throughout his life. I'd ask that all those in attendance please join us for a moment of silence to honor Mr. Benson. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item A, approval of minutes from previous meetings, November 7th, 2023 meeting minutes. Councillor McKinnon was absent. Asked you to, great. All of the remaining councillors would look for a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, yep, motion to approve. Motion to approve. We have a motion and a second. I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Miss Robinson,
yes,
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
and Mr. Lindy.
Yes.
8 in favor, 1 abstention.
Thank you. The motion passes. Moving to agenda item B, announcements from the president. We have no announcements this evening. Item C, proclamations. We have no proclamations. Item D, citizen open forum. I would invite anyone from the public who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, state your name and address, and ask you to keep their remarks to 3 minutes. All right, we have none this evening. I'll move on to item E, appointments. We have no appointments this evening. I'll move on to item F, hearings. We have one hearing this evening. The time is 7:02. I'd like to open the public hearing for proposed ordinance D FY 22-008, Bridgewater Town Charter, Article 2, Legislative Branch, Section 2-13A, Annual Stipend. This was advertised in the 11/7/23 edition of the Brockton Enterprise. Are there any general questions from the public? Seeing none. Does anyone from the public wish to speak in favor? I see none. Does anyone from the public wish to speak in opposition? Please.
Good evening, Ed Ivaldi, Boxwood Lane. Although I am a supporter of the stipend for counselors, I am here tonight to speak against this ordinance as written, because there are still gaps that I believe need to be addressed. In general, I think most citizens will support a reasonable level of compensation for our elected council. However, I think the biggest problem that most people have is when elected officials decide on their own to give themselves raises. If I'm reading this correctly, this ordinance as written gives you, our elected officials, the power to give yourselves raises without any say from the citizens of Bridgewater, who ultimately will fund any increases. I strongly believe that citizens should have input to this process. And as such, I recommend the following. The decision on whether to award stipend raises should come from a newly established citizens commission comprised of 5 to 7 residents whose purpose is to study the merits of any increases, including funding sources, and make recommendations to this council as to whether increases are warranted. This citizen group, as well as the process they follow, should be mentioned and or outlined in this ordinance, as well as the administrative code. In addition, although it mentions that this stipend may be payable in arrears, it's not clear if this is a one-time payment that only occurs at the annual town election day or through some other process. Is the annual town election day defined in the ordinance as the one that happens in April? Because it doesn't say. And what if there are multiple elections held in a given year? Does that affect this? I believe more clarity needs to be provided in the ordinance on how and when the stipends will be paid. And lastly, although the current language talks about a counselor who vacates office and how that would be handled, it doesn't talk about someone who becomes a new counselor mid-cycle. In other words, somebody resigns and now another person either gets elected or appointed into that position. Since they would only be filling a partial term of an incumbent, the question is whether they would also be eligible for the stipend, and would that be prorated as well? So these are just several examples of gaps that I believe need to be filled in this ordinance. And so although the ordinance has been improved quite a bit since it was introduced in 2021, there are still areas that warrant further discussion. And I so recommend that you vote this down tonight and consider the items I've mentioned and for further review and inclusion before bringing it up for a final vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else from the public who wishes to speak in opposition? I see none. Are there any questions from the town councilors?
There's a comment.
Councilor Gallagher.
Just briefly, Mr. President, and although I respect Mr. Evaldi's comments, I do think that there's been a lot of talk in the past several years about whether or not the council should get a stipend or not. And I introduced this over the summer, or right after the summer, to bring this to the table. And the committee has done a good job in recommending something to put before the voters. I think that we need to at least get the temper of the voters to see whether they want to support something like this. And this is going to go to the ballot in April. However, as charter reviews come up and people take a look at the charter, I think that as we see this come to play, we can always make adjustments as has been suggested. So I'd like to see this go forward to the ballot for the April election. If it comes back from the line, I think it has to go to the legislature or whatever. So I think the committee has done a good job making some changes to it. It's not everything. I don't see why we couldn't get paid monthly, but that was discussed in committee, and I'm happy with their recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could, just a reminder on the process here. We vote on this. This then goes to the state, where the state votes on it, the governor votes on it, and ultimately it would come back and appear as an item on our ballot so that residents of the town could vote on it. Maybe I would echo the comments. I think this one has had a lot of good conversation. I do think we heard some good points tonight as well. I do like the idea of putting it in front of the voters and the state legislature as is. I think through some of the conversations prior to getting it to this point, we did talk about, some of the ideas of, should voters vote on each salary change? And we did sort of try to attempt to clarify the language a little bit. So I also support getting this out in front of the voters, but I do like the idea of this being something that potentially iterates in future charter reviews as well. Yep, Dr. Perry.
Thank you. Just one interesting point that was brought up by Mr. Valdi was the fact that if a person is brought on to replace a exiting counselor, how do we prorate that particular counselor? Because obviously that existing counselor might have already been paid a stipend. So what is the mechanism in place for that new counselor coming in? So that part really isn't addressed here. We do say if someone's leaving, but what if someone's coming on? It's again, what stuck out to me, his comment, and I would agree that would be something that I might like to see potentially added to this to clarify that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to just second some of the comments that were made tonight around, sort of taking our time and slowing this down a bit to make sure that we get the language right. As a member of the Rules and Procedures Committee, I know it took extensive conversation back and forth to get to the point where we are now. And I still think, even as a member of that committee, that we, have some adjustments that we could make to make sure that we get this language correct and right before it goes to voters. I think that's important if we want to get this through. And so I would be in support of continuing to workshop this a bit to make sure that we have it in a good place, especially because it's going to reflect all of us being paid, which I think, as Mr. Avaldi alluded to, I think people will be in support of, but I think we need to get it right. So I'd be in favor of that.
Thank you. Counselor Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of remarks responsive to some of the points that were raised by Mr. Avaldi. Firstly, there is no charter provision that would provide for a so-called citizen commission. So that's really an entire ball of wax that is well above and beyond the proposed ordinance that's before us. Furthermore, with respect to the election day, that would be the starting point of a term for the annual stipend. Consider that the ordinance as proposed refers specifically to the annual town election day. And there is in this town only one annual town election day. It has customarily been at the end of April. So a special election has no impact on the language of this proposed ordinance. With respect to changes or increases or any change in the amount that's specified in the proposed ordinance, keep in mind that the provision by which that change would take place requires another ordinance, so that a similar process would be undertaken, which would include ample opportunity for citizen input, including a public hearing as we have here this evening. Finally, with respect to partial terms, Mr. Avaldi is correct that this provision, this ordinance as proposed, makes no provision for a partial term. And it would mean that at present, as drafted, there would be no opportunity for a counselor who comes on within a period of mid-year, let's say, to partake of the stipend. Those are my remarks.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the counselors? Okay.
So what are we,
Yeah, at this point, I
do
would-
you want it sent back to committee?
Yeah, can I make a motion to send back to committee?
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll do a.
Just
Yeah,
for the discussion, I
discussion.
think the biggest thing brought up would be that that midterm counselor if it were to come on. So I think if we get that language added, I think we would be mostly ready to go forward with that. So I would have been in agreement to go back to committee for that particular item.
Advertising.
Could we get a clarification on process? If it goes back to committee at this point, we revise it. Does it come back to council? We then vote it to advertising again?
So likely, yes, because you're gonna probably change some material term of it. So I would say, yeah, just to be safe, especially because this is gonna end up
That's
going to the legislature.
Okay. Thanks. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any additional discussion?
Want to think, so based on timeline, are we still would be okay getting it to April if we delay it a little bit further?
I would admit, even if we voted it today, I would not expect it to be back in time for us to put it in April. It's-
Might
it
take more
just-
time than that.
Yeah, it's most likely going to sit there for a while. Conceivably, you're looking at a year from probably April.
Yeah, it's not gonna get on.
Yeah. Okay. No.
That's
No.
fine. So we should take our time and get the language right. I would agree.
That's a good clarification. Okay, any additional discussion? Okay, so again, the motion is to send it back to rules and procedures for additional revision and incorporation potentially of some public comment and council comments. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Mr. Lindy,
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon,
Yes.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
yes,
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
and Mr. Chase.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. The motion passes. It'll go back to rules and procedures for consideration. That completes item F. Moving on to item G, license transactions. Time is 7:15. I'd like to open the public hearing for petition P 2024-004, the granting of a new Class 2 used auto dealer's license to Northeast Motor Sales at 365 Elm Street. Butter letters were sent certified mail on November 7th, 2023, and notice was in the Enterprise on November 8th, 2023. At this point, I would invite the petitioner to speak if they would like to. Yep. if you
Actually,
could please-
Mr. President,
Yes,
apologies. Did we close the public hearing for the previous item?
we did not. Thank you. So procedurally, do I close that and reopen
Yeah.
this one? Okay. Thank you, Council Robinson. The time is 7:16. I will now close the public hearing for proposed ordinance D FY 22-008. We'll reopen the public hearing. The time is 7:16. I'll open the public hearing for petition P 2024-004, the granting of a new Class 2 used auto dealer's license, Northeast Motor Sales, 365 Elm Street. I would invite the petitioner to speak.
Hi, thank you for having me here today. I am requesting to have the license at 365 Elm Street for Northeast Motor Sales. There's an existing business now, so business will continue pretty similarly to how it's going now, just under a new name and slightly different business hours, Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, Saturday, 9 to 2.
Thank you.
Do we need his name for the record?
Freddie Ariola.
Great, thank you. Okay, do we have any questions for the petitioner? Okay, you can take a seat if you'd like. Are there any general questions from the public? All right, I see none. Does anyone from the public wish to speak in favor? I see none. Does anyone from the public wish to speak in opposition? I see none. Are there any questions from the councilors? Okay, I see none. The time is 7:17. I will now close the hearing and I would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I see none. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon,
Yes.
and Mr. Lindy.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
The motion passes. Congratulations.
Good luck with your business,
luck.
guys.
Thank you. Moving on to item H, presentations. We have none.
Couple of days, all right? Happy Thanksgiving.
Moving on to item I, Town Manager's Report. We have two items this evening. The first is the High Street Bridge closure update.
Thank you, Mr. President. So pretty short report tonight. I can tell you that the High Street Bridge, High Street has been reopened. The bridge portion is complete enough to reopen to traffic, so that's good news. There are several more months of work to go before the project is finished, however, so there will continue to be work down in that area over the next several months. And we are planning some sort of ribbon cutting ceremony in the spring. So as soon as I have a date or plans for that, I will certainly let you know. The fire station update, very quick. I think I reported that the sub bids came in under estimate, which is good news. And we should know this week now what the general contract estimate or general contract bids are. And then we can, if all goes well, we'll move fairly rapidly to get the contractor under contract and get the project ground broken and move along. But I'm happy to answer any questions about either of those
Great,
items.
thanks. Are there any questions for the town manager on those two updates? Just a quick question on the High Street Bridge reopening. I know there are some signs that reference detours. Are those still up? Do they stay up until the full work is done?
No, the contractor will take those down fairly
doing?
soon so that you don't have to
You
detour, but as I say, the bridge itself is open. I do not anticipate any additional out and out closures. There may be details down there limiting to one lane depending on what type of work is going on. But right now I'm not I know there's no additional bridge closure.
Great.
So,
Thank you. All right, I see, Counselor
I
McKinnon.
just have a few things I want to request for the next meeting.
Okay.
So to start off, where are we at with plows for the winter? A lot of towns around here have signs up everywhere, plows hiring, looking for that. And I tell you personally, our rates are a little lower, but our insurance itself, what we need is nice. It's the lowest around. That can definitely pull people in, but I know 2 years ago we went up 20%, but all these other towns keep going up too. So maybe that's something we need to look at if we don't have enough plow drivers. Because I remember 2 years ago, I was out there plowing streets to get to people's houses just to plow their driveway, which shouldn't happen, especially half that street was first responders. Now second, since we got one bridge done, nice to get an update on Oak Street, get a price on that. Not do it right away, but just figure out where we're at there. Cause I mean, last time I think it was 1.2 to 1.8 in that range or something like that.
Correct.
Oak Street, I know we have 5 streets that we're looking at in general, but Oak Street has to be number 6 on that list. And if we do not do the bridge and we just pave the road, that will definitely make those people happy. And like I said, that road has been horrible for 10+ years now. And I mean, I think I was in high school when the bridge got closed and it's still not open. It's not that good of a look, you know? And I know drainage needs to be done on that street too, so it'd be good to know where the water, how old the water pipes are on that street. If we are gonna rip up the road, you might as well do it all in one go and then say we don't need to touch it for 50 more years. Another update on the wastewater for the prison, how that's all going. I know that's been in talks for a little bit and that will definitely help relieve the sewer plant. We have, I forget what street that is, but near the college there. And then an update on that construction, how that's going. Because I know phase 1 was almost done over there, I believe. And a few more things, just Rainbow's End, where we're at there. That was in a town manager report a few months ago, and you haven't heard much about what's going on down there, and that'd definitely be good to get going. Be good to get an update on the Perkins Street self-storage building, when that building's gonna get demoed and all that work's gonna start to begin, because I know the planning board did approve everything that they wanted over there. Then an update on the Pascal property. I know his last submission is now expired. I know that, and it'd be good just if the town gets in touch with him, talk to him, see if he wants to resubmit. You know, soon with the form-based code, it should be no problem getting something there, because just like Oak Street, that whole area has been a disaster for over a decade now. And then the last thing is Town River Landing, just where we're at with Home Depot and the gazebo. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor McKinnon. Do we have any other questions or comments for the town manager or items for next agenda? Okay, I see none. Thank you. We'll close out item I, move on to item J, discussions. We have none this evening. Item K, committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? We'll do 2. First, starting with Counselor Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. One committee report to offer. The Rules and Procedures Committee did meet with respect to proposed ordinance DY FY 22-009, the recall provision. And we had voted unanimously to recommend the provision, that ordinance for adoption with amendments.
Thank you. Counselor George.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the review committee met yesterday, and we're going to move forward with all of your input in regards to using the last form that we used, but getting input from everyone on things that they want to see added within the review. Just keep in mind that we're not looking to make this review 15 pages, but you know, we want to get it to a point where we can get it in front of the council, probably, hopefully the last meeting in December, the first meeting in January, because we want to stay on the timeline of being able to send out the review on the 30th, so we can fit within the timeline. Also, for strategic planning, what we'd also like to propose, and we'll talk about this more, is actually delivering the town manager's goals during the review. So Town manager will get his review for the prior 12 months and then get the town manager's goals at that particular point. Understanding that some of the goals may be very broad, specifically around finance, just because of the way that the budget cycle works, but at least giving a good, clear direction on what the council wants to see the town manager do over the next 12 months. So that's about it. More to come. I'll be sending out things to the council to elicit feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor George. We have any other committee reports? Okay.
Mr. President, I'm happy to report one.
Yes, Councilor Robinson, please.
Okay, thanks, everybody. On November 2nd, the Community and Economic Development Committee had convened, and the topic there was around our annual election and Clerk Marilee Hunt's proposal for supplementing awareness with some additional signage in town. We had a really good discussion, some just to kind of cover all bases around the actual proposal itself, which was to buy a certain number of signs, have elected officials distribute them and place them around town, and also store them for the following year. We did also talk a little bit and brainstormed around some additional ideas for visibility, other potential options to potentially explore in the future. For instance, large metal signs for durability. And some of those notes can be found from the actual minutes of that meeting. So I won't go into too much detail. But one thing that I did want to raise for everyone that I believe was a bit of a misunderstanding from Clerk Hunt's original proposal is that I believe that we as counselors understood that we were being asked to actually fund it. And through a series of communications I had with Clerk Hunt, she clarified that her intent was actually that it would be paid for by the town, but elected officials, both the counselors as well as other elected officials from the town, would then distribute and post, in public places. So I just wanted to make sure that this council was aware of that, because again, I believe that the majority of us had understood it as we were actually funding the signs directly. So just wanted to put that out there for consideration. It might make sense then to potentially bring this up for another council meeting just to talk through it more with this new information. Because that would also certainly also require some kind of order for the town to allocate funding specifically for additional signs if this is something that we want to support and go forward with.
Thank you, Councilor Robinson. I'll add it as an item for discussion in our next council meeting, so we can share some thoughts and opinions on that follow-up.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional updates, committee? Okay, I see none. Moving on to item L, legislation for action. We have 3 items this evening. The first is Order O FY 24-015, the Sewer Enterprise Fund. The Budget and Finance meeting on 11/21/23 voted.
We voted 3-0 to recommend.
Great, thank you. And the Finance Committee meeting on 11/20/23.
They didn't meet, so you can't vote on these.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like actually this one and the next one
Have to go
do
on.
not, yeah. So I would entertain a motion to postpone until the next scheduled town council meeting.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay. Do a roll call vote. Again, this is to postpone Order O FY 24-015 for consideration till the next scheduled council meeting.
Mr. Lindy,
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon,
Yes.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
and Mr. Chase.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right, the motion passes. We'll add it to the next agenda. The same thing for Order O FY 24-016, transfer order sewer wastewater treatment facility phase 1. Because the Finance Committee did not meet, we don't have a recommendation from them. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. we could probably record how we voted, but still not vote on the order.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
did vote. Yeah, we voted before tonight's meeting, 3-0 to recommend. So we're just waiting for the finance committee.
Great, thank you. Okay. And I would entertain a motion.
So
to
moved.
Postpone to the next.
To
scheduled
postpone to the next
We have a
schedule.
motion, a second, any discussion? I see none. If we could have a roll call vote?
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
And Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. We'll see that on the next agenda as well. The next item we have is item C, proposed ordinance D FY 22-009, Bridgewater Town Charter, Article 3, elected official recall provision. I would, this is, we heard a committee update earlier on this. I would maybe defer to Counselor Chase to introduce the amended version.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have just noted that the proposed ordinance as it appears before us requires a correction. The text begins ordered that the Town Charter Article 2 legislative branch shall be amended and include a recall provision as below. But as the title of the ordinance correctly indicates, we are proposing this item for Article 3, elected officials.
Great, thank you. I would entertain a motion to amend as described.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any additional discussion? Okay, if we could have a roll call vote for the amendment?
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chase?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
The motion passes. Do we have any additional context?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Just a couple of points. We did in the Rules and Procedures Committee meeting consider the final comments that were delivered at the last council session, which considered this matter. And you can see that on page 27 of your material, that the two amendments that were adopted in Rules and Procedures appear. The first being that the numbered item 5 in the proposed ordinance, it now appears, it includes the words lack of fitness, and we voted unanimously to strike that phrase entirely from the proposed ordinance. And secondly, in numbered paragraph 6, you'll see the words before you, conviction of a felony involving moral turpitude. And we voted unanimously to strike those words from the proposed ordinance. So there were no further changes that we discussed or voted on. And otherwise, the ordinance as it appears before us is what we had recommended for adoption.
Great, thank you. So I would entertain a motion to amend the language as just described.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? We have none. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
And Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, the motion passes. At this point, I would entertain a motion to refer to advertising.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I see none. If we could have a roll call vote?
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chase?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
The motion passes to refer to advertising. All right, that concludes item L. I'll move on to item M, old business. We have none. Item N, new business. We have 4 items this evening. The first is order O, FY 24-017, FY 2024 classification tax allocation, adoption of a residential factor. I would defer to the town manager for a quick introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just for those counselors who are new and for the public, I think it deserves a little bit of explanation on first reading. So before the tax rate can actually be set, the town council has to hold a hearing. and decide different tax rate options. The hearing is held after the assessors have determined what the full and fair value of all town properties are, and then submitted that information to DOR. So the council has to decide ultimately the percentage of a tax levy that each class of real, personal, industrial, commercial, open space property will bear. And in order to do that, it establishes what's referred to as the residential factor. A residential factor, sort of governs that percentage split among those different classes of property. So a single tax rate, which is what Bridgewater has and has had as far as recent memory, is also referred to as a residential factor of 1. And that results in all properties being taxed at the same rate. A residential factor of less than 1 would shift additional tax burden to commercial and industrial properties. A residential factor of more than 1 would shift more tax burden to residential and open space properties. Very few, if any, cities or towns in the state do that, obviously. So in any case, at your hearing, you will decide the residential factor, and then the results flow from that. But before tax bills can go out by the end of December, you have to establish that residential factor so that it can then be applied against the values of all the property in the town. And then the resulting final tax rate can be set, and the final third, fourth quarter bills can go out. So that in a nutshell is what the residential factor is. But I'm happy to answer any questions before you refer it.
Thanks. Do we have any questions for the town manager? All right, I see none. I would entertain a motion to refer to Budget and Finance committees.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
And Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
The motion passes. The next item we have is item B, proposed zoning ordinance D FY 24-003, chapter 7.7, specialized energy code. I am introducing this. So if I could maybe just take a moment to give a quick background by way of introduction. So the Energy Committee had asked us to consider adopting the Massachusetts Specialized Code. For those who aren't aware, this is a set of net zero building standards designed to ensure that new construction aligns with the net zero Massachusetts economy by 2050. That's a state initiative. If supported, it would take effect likely on July 1st, 2024, to give builders time to react. And maybe just a few key points about the code, but I would encourage everyone to research this. The purpose is to achieve Massachusetts greenhouse gas emissions limits and the building sector sublimits set every 5 years from 2025 through 2050. Some requirements, energy efficiency. The code emphasizes deep energy efficiency, reduced heating loads, and efficient electrification. With a net zero goal, it ensures that new construction contributes to a net zero greenhouse gas emissions economy by 2050. And again, that's a state initiative. And while fossil fuels such as gas and propane are permitted, they come with additional requirements for on-site solar generation and pre-wiring for future electrification of any fossil fuel using equipment. So again, these standards are intended to encourage net zero emissions. They do also favor heat pumps. And if you look at state literature, it says that it typically costs less to build in this manner than build in a manner that requires fossil fuel heating. So this is being introduced at the recommendation of the Energy Committee. I would entertain a motion to refer to Planning Board and Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we can move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yes.
Dr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chase?
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, the motion passes. The next item we have is item C, Resolution R FY 24-003, Town Council meeting date for 2024. I would entertain a motion to retain at council.
Point of order,
Oh,
Mr.
yes,
President?
please. Yeah.
Thank you. I've noted the fact that the proposed calendar calls for only one meeting in the month of June. And according to council rules, we specify the need for, in the month of June, 2 meetings. Customarily, it has been the case only that in July and August has the council met only on one date. So this would need to be actually referred to rules and procedures to be considered.
Actually,
May is the
same
same.
applies for May, yeah.
It's probably just a Scrivener's error. yes.
Yeah, this is a good catch. I do think we,
It's on a different page. Yeah.
Second page. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Never close the box.
Oh, okay,
Come on.
I see.
the box. Box was,
Shrink that down, fit on one page.
there's another box on the next.
Yeah, really.
yes. So given that,
Let's have 2 meetings in
would-
July.
would you care to withdraw the motion?
I would indeed withdraw that motion.
Great, thank you. So the motion on the table is a motion to retain at council for a vote in our next scheduled meeting. And we have a motion, I would entertain a motion.
We got that.
We
We
got
have
a
it.
motion in a second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, I would entertain, or let's go to a roll call vote.
Mr. Chase,
Yes,
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon,
Yes.
and Mr. Lindy.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
The motion passes to keep it at council. Moving on to item D, Resolution R FY 24-004. It's the FY 2025 budget resolution. I would defer to the town manager for a quick introduction.
Actually, I'll
To me.
defer to,
Yeah. Yeah, this,
Mr.
thank you, Mr. President. This is just a standard document that we put forth every year as the budget process begins, but I'm sure the town manager has been diligently working on the fiscal 25 budget. It's really started with Counselor Wood several years ago to kind of set the tone and to create some sort of guidelines and goals for the upcoming budget. So the document you have in front of you is pretty boilerplate. As in the past, there was a couple of things that I added, and I'm certainly open to suggestions from the council. This usually gets referred. This gets referred to Budget and Finance Committee for their recommendations and thoughts. And then it comes back to the council for continued discussion and any changes to set the tone for the budget. So this is just an annual document that it's worked out very well since it's been introduced to kind of guide us through the process and set goals and objectives.
Thank you,
So I
Counselor.
would request that it be referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
I would entertain a motion to refer to Budget and Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Any additional discussion? I see none. If we could have a roll call vote.
Mr. Lindy,
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon,
yes.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
and Mr. Chase.
yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. The motion passes. That concludes item N. Move on to item O, citizen comment. Do we have any citizens who would like to comment?
Carlton Hunt, 80 Austin Street, Bridgewater. First of all, I want to applaud you for sending the stipend back to committee. I think it's really critical to optimize that language to maximize the ability of the legislature to pass it and the citizens. So getting it right this time is better than twice or 3 times in the future. Thank you, Chairman, or President, I'm sorry, for putting the specialized code before. I think is an important code for the town to consider, and I really do appreciate you getting it done. Thank you. An update, I would like to add to the town manager's report. I haven't had a chance to meet with him on energy. I'm Energy Committee Chair, but the energy aggregation was a hot topic for a while, and I haven't heard anything for 2 months, 3 months, and it takes a long time to get this through. So I'd like to get an update on that, specifically the schedule and process. Good news, Winter Wonderful was able to raise enough money to put and light the common. There is scheduled and the program is already printed for Sunday night, 7 o'clock on the Common. There will be a lighting ceremony. And I really appreciate the citizens and the people, businesses who all have stepped up. I'm speaking for the proponent of it, but quite frankly, we were very happy to see the money come in and we achieved our goals. And lastly, have a great, wonderful Thanksgiving. Be safe.
Thank you.
Just a question. The Sunday night, this Sunday night,
The
Sunday, Carlton?
clarification on the lighting date and time. You said this
It's
coming Sunday?
Coming Sunday.
Okay.
I believe that's the 26th,
26.
7 PM.
7 PM on the Common.
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. Great.
Dark light.
All right, thank you. That concludes citizen comment. We have no other citizens. Moving on to item P, council comments, starting on the phone with Councillor Robinson.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Chase?
Thanks, Mr. President. Just to mention that in addition to the lighting ceremony that will take place on this Sunday on the Common, I think many in town are aware of the fact that Christmas on the Common will take place on the town common the following Sunday. That's December 3rd. And I hope that many residents take advantage of that opportunity to shop for early Christmas gifts and just support local businesses who will be present on the Common to show their wares. And I think it's a great effort and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Perry?
Oh, thank you. So number one, I did want to report that I had the privilege, along with a few other counselors, to march in the Veterans Day Parade on the 11th, and it was a good turnout by all three towns, Bridgewater, East and West Bridgewater. East Bridgewater did a great job in hosting, and we were fortunate enough to have some very nice weather. So just wanted to mention that a good time was had by all. I also want to mention, as we're talking about the Common, the Bridgewater Lions will be out the Saturday morning at 9 a.m. following Thanksgiving, putting out the Christmas decorations that we put out every year. So if anyone does want to come out and give us a hand, we'll gladly take any physical help that we can get. And also just wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to all, and come on out and root for BR versus Brockton. That's Thursday morning. They'll be playing at home. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, just one comment from me tonight. I had the honor to attend a meeting last Thursday at the State House on behalf of a program called Kevin for Kids, and met with Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, a few state representatives, and state senators. The program Kevin for Kids is a partnership with the Toys for Tots program. It's in its 14th year, and it's raised 25,000 toys over those 14 years for children in need. And so this year, the program will be held at the Sons of Italy in Braintree. They'll be doing a toy drop off from 12 to 4, and then a program in the evening from 7 to midnight, which also requires one toy for admission. So a great program. Huge shout out to them for being able to acquire 25,000 toys over that 14-year career, and looking forward to a great 15th year for that program. So that's it. Happy Thanksgiving.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Gallagher?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things. Again, as Councilor Perry said, I want to thank the town of East Bridgewater for being the host this year of the Tri-Town Veterans Day Parade in honor of their 200th anniversary over there. It was great. It was great to see that the town dedicated the gazebo over there to a longtime, well-respected resident, Mr. Bob McCarthy, who served the town of East Bridgewater for several years, and the county of Plymouth. So I appreciate my colleagues here that were able to march with our banner down Spring Street into the Common. As mentioned, there will also be a Christmas procession on December 3rd, where we usually march from the old high school parking lot down to the Common on December 3rd, about 11:15. So I have the banner. So anyone that wants to march down, and then we join the festivities on the Common at starts at noon. For that would be nice that we usually lead the parade. So if anybody, I'm sure Debbie will put out a reminder. And, you know, Christmas on the Common is Sunday, December 3rd. And I'm glad the lights are going up this weekend. I should be there. And just happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Counselor Lindy?
Echoing some of the other comments, I'm really happy to hear about Winter Wonderful. The event that happened at the Cedar Street Community Center was phenomenal, which helped raise money for that. I think Carlton, Marilee, everybody on the committee did a great job. I'm looking forward to seeing the lights, and hopefully it's not rain or shine. I just hope, well, not shine. Also, I noticed at the library, at the public library, there's a foster teen giving tree, and there are little tags that people can get if they want to get a gift for a foster teen. And I saw something also posted on 02324 in residence about, is the fire department still doing the toy drive? And as far as I know, they are, you know, the Operation Santa, correct? So hopefully people, if they have toys, they can donate them there. And I just wanted to wish my fellow counselors and everyone here a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Counselor Lindy. Counselor McKinnon?
Thank you. A couple of things. Just want to remind people that the folks at BTV are still looking for volunteers. If you have kids in high school or college, they can get credits for doing this. I mean, what was it, last week or the week before? We filmed boxing. On Thursday, we'll be filming BR versus Brockton. It's fun. I enjoy it. It's definitely something cool. And if you're in high school or college, it's free credits. So just reach out to them. I do want to thank Lieutenant Ann Schuster from the Bridgewater Police Department. She did just retire last Friday. I think we should do a little proclamation or something for her. And speaking of first responders, can't remember the exact date, but I was driving down to Wareham and drove by the car guys when all that was going on, and ended up getting stuck in the parking lot because fire hoses. And I just need to salute our fire department, thank Rainham, West Bridgewater, East Bridgewater, Middleborough, and Whitman for all coming and helping. There's one thing that kind of ticked me off about that fire, and that was the fact that hold on, let me pull the time up, because I wrote an email, so I figured I'd say it all here. 12:16, the initial call was made to National Grid to come cut the power. At 12:26, live wires did go down. And then at 12:59, the power was finally cut at the building. And that's kind of unacceptable to take 40 minutes to get to a live fire that close to where there's always vehicles in our town just sitting in parking lots. But besides that, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor McKinnon. Counselor George?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple things. Congratulations to the fundraising committee on the lights on the Common. It's always nice to be coming into the Common at night in the wintertime and seeing the lights, the decorations. I hope the Lions Club reaches out to the high school to get volunteers, because they need volunteer hours. So that if you haven't done that already, it's probably good to do that tomorrow. Apologies for not being able to march in the parade. I was out of town, and I wish everyone a happy and healthy. Well, I look forward to the Christmas on the Common. That's always fun, and hopefully everyone has a good, happy, and healthy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Counselor George. I would echo all of the comments made so far. I would maybe just add also happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And one of the great things about Bridgewater, there are many, one of the great things is usually right after Thanksgiving, all of the holiday lights go up. And if you haven't taken a drive around Bridgewater during the season, there are some amazing light displays that would rival, I think, anything you see on like HGTV. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's usually a map that gets published so you can sort of drive around town and see the greatest hits. And to the people who participate in that, we always appreciate the light shows. I know there's one on Vernon Street where I live that's absolutely amazing. And there are many others across town. So I'm looking forward to that too. So once again, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I think that concludes tonight's meeting. We'll move on to item Q, executive session. We have none. Item R, adjournment. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. All those in roll call vote.
Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Sorry about the roll calls. Yes.
Dr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. McKinney,
Yes.
Mr. McKinnon, and Mr. Lindy.
Yes.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.